We've been viewing this as a lens, through a lens that pits the Trump team against the liberals and the liberal media. But a lot of this fight can also take place within the Trump team. This is not particular to Trump. This is true of any political organization. There is all sorts of infighting. Mar-a-Lago is Versailles because Trump is the great figure in the party. And so not everyone is always on board. There are always factions vying for power, vying for influence, rival nominees who want the spot. We're talking about one of the most desirable jobs in the country. You're leading the U.S. military. So there's going to be all sorts of fighting and backstabbing and trying to hold positions within Trump world while maybe stabbing people in the back who are in a different part of Trump world. That is how politics works. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. But we need to take that for what it is. There is a lot of cynical jockeying that goes on in any political organization. And it's why we need to be asking questions, not merely about the motives for people in the liberal media or in the Democrat Party or in some Democrat senator's office, but maybe the motives for different factions within the Trump umbrella, because those are in many ways going to be more relevant to the fight that's going on than even what we're seeing on the left.
So let's talk about Joni Ernst and Ron DeSantis, because, well, first one quick point. Will Cain put out a tweet on X yesterday saying, just got off the phone with Bill Brown, a former Navy SEAL, a combat vet and leader in the SEAL community. Right now, over 100 Navy SEALs are organizing and committed to march on Washington in support of Pete Hegseth. Just a heads up at GOP Senate. So it will be very interesting if the rank and file stand up on Pete's behalf and say, no, we're not going to let you pull this bullshit on him. We want him. We actually really want a warfighter who's one of us, who's not an administrator, who's not worried about the next star on his shoulder, but who's worried about us. That's going to put these GOPers in a very tight spot, because so far what they're saying is, forget what Blumenthal said about 5 to 10 secretly confessing to this Democrat their plans. They will answer to Trump and to Elon, who will unleash his pack on them. So they can tell Dick Blumenthal whatever they want. By the way, he's a known liar. What's going to matter is voting day. And let's just see if they really do have the balls to stand up to Elon's super PAC that's going to primary all of them, that's going to spend ad dollars to try to hurt them, right? So we'll see. But so far, the reports are right now, it's, of course, Murkowski, of course, Collins, McConnell, and maybe Joni Ernst, who is a senator from Iowa, red state, served herself. She met with Pete yesterday and came out with some anodyne statements. They were not critical, but they were not positive either. And I don't know where she stands, but there are some reports now by the Federalist and elsewhere that she is vying for the role, that she wants to knife Pete because she would like to be the head of DOD. And then there's DeSantis, who was minding his own business governing Florida. And I mean, I suggested him as a possible fill-in if Pete fell. I mean, I don't want him to replace Pete actively, but if Pete goes, I think he'd be great. But it's complicated with him because, like, if it looks like he's replacing Pete, MAGA will not accept him because he was not a Trump loyalist and, in fact, was very critical of Trump toward the end of that primary campaign. So what do you make of these, of the senators, including Joni? Because if they lose 4, they're toast. They can lose 3, and J.D. Vance can cast the deciding vote. If they lose 4, he's toast. And of DeSantis as a possible next bet.
Don't forget who was at the top of George W. Bush's vice presidential search committee. You know, the man himself who he kept finding problems with every nominee who came up until, well, alas, Mr. Bush, if you're asking Dick Cheney to be your VP, I guess I have to serve my country. One gets some of those vibes from Joni Ernst right now, though it's unfortunate. And I hope that if Trump really does want to stand by his nominee, that they impress upon Joni Ernst and any other senators that there could be problems for their political careers and legacies if they don't get on board. In terms of DeSantis would be great in any part of the government, but I think your fears are quite right, Megyn, which is that the way that DeSantis could enter into a Trump administration has to be delicate. One of the things I really love about Trump is that everyone mistakenly believes that for him it's all personal and he holds grudges and he's petty, but really I think the opposite is true. He fights in a very personal way, but I've really never seen anyone in politics forgive his enemies and bring them back in quite as much as Trump. I mean, he just put up Marco Rubio, with whom he fought a bitter primary contest in 2016, put him up as Secretary of State. It's one of the most important roles in the government. He's now buddies with Lindsey Graham. He's now buddies with Rand Paul. He made fun of Rand Paul's face during a presidential debate in 2016. Now they're chummy. He's now pals with Ted Cruz. He's now, all of these guys, he does bring them back in. It's not, to quote Michael Corleone,
I think he's good with me.
It's not personal, it's strictly business.
Yeah, it's not strictly business. Lindsey Graham is annoying, to put it mildly. I think he's trying to tank this nomination right now. I think he's against Pete Hegseth. I've never seen somebody so desperate to thread the needle, to play both sides of the fence at once, right? To me, it seems clear based on his statements so far, I'm very concerned about the latest reporting. We're going to have to get to the bottom of these. He is not pro-Pete. He's a more neocon-y kind of guy, but he's bent the knee to Trump. So he knows he's got to check his neocon-y instincts and try to seem a little bit more appealing to MAGA. But to me, it seems clear he doesn't like Pete. I'm sure he'd much rather have a Joni Ernst, who, by the way, I really like Joni Ernst. I like her. So I don't think we should completely throw her under the bus as this is necessarily true until we have proof that it's true.
Of course.
But if it's true, she's about to lose a massive amount of support, because if there's an active undermining and knifing of Pete without, really giving him a fair hearing, that's not going to go well. And I will tell you this, Charlie Kirk just tweeted out, "We're learning a lot about Joni Ernst and the Senate establishment right now. Trump faithful are talking about finding a primary challenger. This is getting very serious." The first response is absolutely, we need to Liz Cheney her. So there's a lot of risk. There's no risk for Collins, Murkowski, McConnell. There's risk for Joni
Megyn,
Ernst and any other senator.
When you mentioned that Lindsey Graham is a little bit more neo-con-y and there's part of that establishment is really opposed to Pete Hegseth, all you got to remember, the story that tells you this whole story is that after Pete was named as the SecDef nominee, Politico ran a piece about all the opposition to him, and their chief source was a defense industry lobbyist who said, "Who the hell is Pete Hegseth? We don't like this guy." That to me tells you everything. Yes, he hasn't worked in the defense industry lobbies. He's not really part of the military industrial complex, and they don't like him. And that is one of the chief recommendations of Pete Hegseth for this job. So,
well, wait, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question on the heels of that. Yesterday, I mentioned it in passing yesterday with Pete, but why on the report that came out of NBC about alleged Fox News current and former staffers, who's that? Gretchen Carlson? I mean, honestly, who? Tell us who. Give me the names, because let me tell you something. I will be able to tell you right away whether they are credible and whether they know anything about Pete Hegseth. Tell me who they are. Okay, because I was there many years with the guy, and I know the scuttlebutt on Pete. It was that he was a philanderer, which we now know is true. That's what people were saying. There wasn't a whiff, not a whiff of he's a drunk. And there were whiffs along those lines about other people, drunk or drugs, depending on the person. Never anything about Pete. Okay, so anyway, that NBC News report that allegedly has all these current and former Fox News staffers saying this stuff about him, one of the lead reporters on it was the NBC Pentagon reporter. Why would the Pentagon reporter be penning that story? I realize he's, being nominated to be defense chief, but if you're looking for sources at Fox News who know about Pete's alleged drunkenness, then you want your media reporter. That would make some sense. They have an entertainment reporter. That made some sense. But the Pentagon reporter would have very different sources.
Sometimes presidents get elected to just keep things going and make modest improvements. Other times, as in this election, presidents are elected to radically shake things up. And when you want to radically shake things up, people are going to come out with the knives for you. So to your point, Megyn, I think it just backs up the political point, which is that if the Pentagon, if some of the corrupt top brass who spend more time whining about white rage and seeking to instill critical race theory into cadets than they do focus on winning wars, if those guys oppose Pete Hegseth, that is a great mark in Pete Hegseth's favor. Even to your point, Megyn, on the anonymous sources at Fox, past and present, you've spent a lot more time around Fox News than I have, but I've spent a little bit of time around there. And there, as in many political organizations and media organizations, there are factions. There are people who don't like the other people there, and they want to get the other people fired, and they're jockeying for influence and power. And they whine about each other, sometimes even on the record, but usually off the record, to other media. That always happens. And so it seems to me that what's going on here is not an honest vetting of a defense secretary nominee in the interest of the common good of the American people. I think what you're seeing is a lot of people trying to settle scores that go back decades, that have nothing to do with the job and nothing to do with the administration. Scores within old political nonprofits, scores within campaign apparatuses, and scores within media organizations. Okay, that is to be expected, but no serious statesman should allow that to distract them from the actual job it is before them, which is putting the common good of the American people first and making America great again.
Here is Democratic Representative Jim McGovern of Massachusetts on the Trump picks so far. Listen to this guy.
It looks like the requirements to be in the Trump White House are that you either abuse women or you're an out-of-touch billionaire. What's next? Are they going to replace FBI background checks with a Fox News screen test? I mean, forget about a White House cabinet. Donald Trump is making it into a junk drawer. His Commerce Secretary, a billionaire, big surprise. His Education Secretary, yet another billionaire. What's her qualification? She ran WWE. The person he tapped to lead Health and Human Services, he thinks tap water turns kids gay. His Defense Secretary, I mean, this guy is probably dropping out momentarily. Apparently, he drinks on the job and paid to cover up his sexual assault allegations. Even his mom doesn't like him. Now, do we want people who understand our struggles? People who will fight for regular folks? Or do we want billionaire trust fund weirdos who just prop up the same broken, rigged system?
Okay. I mean, where to begin? First of all, Pete should sue him for saying he drinks on the job. He should sue his ass. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. The app shows whether you're burning fat or carbs and provides tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and stress management. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning to understand your metabolism. Based on your measurements, Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for the day. You can breathe into it before and after workouts as well, and meals, to get real-time insights, with Lumen providing tips to give you all the latest information about your health game. Lumen can also track your cycle, adjusting its recommendations to maintain a healthy metabolism through hormonal shifts, helping you keep your energy levels up and stave off cravings. So if you want to stay on track with your health this holiday season, go to lumen.me/Megyn to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/Megyn for 15% off your purchase. Lumen makes a great gift too. This is probably something they won't be expecting. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.